That moves us to the discussion agenda, starting with the administrative priorities for the year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The following hour presentation, I'm joking, it will not be. It will not be an hour. This is last year's administrative priorities, and as we look into this year, you'll see this over and over, but it's about supporting the whole child, the whole teacher and staff, and the whole district. As Ms. McCaskill showed you, our umbrella of support over our students and all of the areas that we work on diligently to ensure that our students are protected. And when we look at that classroom, we need every part from our physical safety to the educational needs. It takes all of that in order to make a success. And so what we're really looking at is ensuring our students are ready to learn. And to be ready to learn, Todd said it beautifully of those different levels of support that we need. The majority of the people that they deal with in graduation alliance, they're in that survival state. And so getting them into the ready to learn is very tough when they're in the survival state. But answering those three questions, am I safe? Do I feel loved? And does this have value to me? And so we want to make sure that they're safe, loved, and connected. And that is, as our speaker said today, that's in the classrooms and science labs, but that's also on stage in art galleries. That's also in the field in the courts, and that's before, during, and after school, answering those three questions. We want to take care of the whole teacher and staff. This reality, I cannot put this in front of us enough, but Dr. Herron, you asked, what does that look like for the district? When we pull those numbers, Dr. Harris's team and accountability pulled those numbers. This is the average third grade, sixth grade, and eighth grade class by quartile that we have. And you can see the percentages that are facing the average teacher. Blue representing those students in the 80th plus percentile. These are high flyers. That green represents the average amount of students that you'll see that are on grade level. The yellow, those are our approaches. That's from the 41st to the 60th percentile. And then you can see the levels that we have to gain from that. So as a teacher, and you put this into desks, this is what your classroom looks like. And so having those multi-tiers of support are important so that you can reach all levels. Our teachers asked us to recognize what they're going through. They don't just get 25 same widgets that move through the day. It's this reality. They asked us to give them supports, and you've reached out and you gave them supports. Magic School AI is going to be a huge support for them as they work to address this issue here, giving that faculty and time to reflect. And I think this is going to give them time back in their schedule, supports that we can call on a partner that will help us with 42 calls for a student. And then the whole district. As we move forward, this is going to be a tough year for School District 5. Exciting, but we have a lot on our plate. Educational restructuring, staffing for the new structure, rezoning, executing the referendum, including designs, the permits, the construction, the operations, and then the contingencies. It's a year of uncertainty when it comes to funding. We are trying to predict as best we can our state funding, our federal funding. And as you saw tonight, all of these are uncertainties. And then as is set in our board policy, providing for the educational welfare of all students. And that's what we have as our main goal. And so before you in the packet, I have a year at a glance, our budget calendar. I'd like if y'all can review that to give feedback. But this is a way that we can structure the year so you can see from July to June all the things that we're going to have take place to make the budget work. It's a very aggressive, tight timeline, but the district also has undercutting responsibilities within this, in which none of this represents the 166 activities that we are responsible for the strategic plan. So because of that, if you overlay that, it'd be hard to even read this chart. So we're going to ask that you review this so that we are in position to do the things that we need to do to ensure that we do that goal where every child feels loved in our schools and every child has demonstrated academic growth in our schools. Those are the admin priorities for the 2005-2026 school year.
Do we have any questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Ross. That moves us to discussion regarding the school finance workshop. I sent out an email. I lose track of time at this point, especially in the summer, but I think about a month or so ago, just suggesting that maybe we look at a finance one-on-one workshop, and outside of the time frame when we would normally be discussing the budget or trying to prepare for it, just sort of giving us an opportunity to understand some of the terminology, but then also to understand what money comes from where and to get certain questions answered. I've gotten feedback from a couple of you that you thought that that would be beneficial, and then even some really good questions that we could cover during that workshop as well. And so my thought process is that we'd have somebody come in and lead a workshop that could answer some of the questions that you all send in ahead of time. So some of it's structured around maybe, a lot of people don't understand how this works or whatever. So so it makes sense in that regard. And then they can also just give us information, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so I'd like us to be able to look at that maybe in September. Amy, is the best way to handle that to maybe send out a poll of a couple of dates so we can get the most attendance, Dr. Ross?
Yes, if you can, we can send out a poll of September the 8th and September the 22nd if we want to do that at a board meeting. And then if you wanted to do it off of a board meeting, then we can poll some dates. But Miss Missy Campbell from Scasbo has agreed to do it. She serves as if you want to speak to her.
Missy Campbell, I reached out. She's the CFO of Spartanburg 7. She's also on the board of the South Carolina School Business Officials, and she does this for school districts. She has been a great resource to me and is a great CFO resource across the state. She said she would love to come and speak to the board, love to come give an educational kind of overview and answer any questions. So she has agreed to do this for our board, for everybody. And so those are some dates that she could work with, but we could definitely look at others if we want to do it outside of a board meeting. So
Thought it would be good to just get an outside perspective. Mr. Satterfield, you had a question?
Yeah, one suggestion I'd like to make is that when we hold this gathering, I'm going to call it a gathering instead of a meeting. I don't want to do it during a board meeting, I'll be honest with you. That we do it in a more informal setting where we can really just sit down and converse back and forth and ask maybe some of the specific questions that we had during the previous budget process. Adults are not unlike kids in that they don't want to be embarrassed by asking a question that somebody else might think is a dumb question. But the best way to learn, and Ms. Tucker, you've done a fabulous job of explaining and helping us through that process, but I just think I'd like to do it in a more I know we have to announce it because it is an official meeting because we're all gathered, but I don't know, I just think like a more informal setting where we can sit around a table or two tables, whatever, and just kind of talk, and she can kind of share with us and we can ask questions, and so it's sort of a non-threatening environment. I just think people would learn a lot more about that. So,
Other thoughts, questions?
I just have one. Today's meeting, 4:30, started executive session. If we have to go earlier than that to make something like this work, I know that's going to present possibly some issues for those of us with kids.
I had already
just wanted
brought that same
Okay,
comment up as a concern as well, so you're not alone in that. Initially, my comment to Dr. Ross was that if we were going to do it before a board meeting, it needed to be a super light agenda. But I also respect Mr. Satterfield's perspective that maybe it is better to do it where we don't have to feel as rushed. Because I know sometimes that happens even in executive session where we feel the pressure to kind of get things wrapped up. So I'm open to doing it at a separate time if the board thinks that that would be most helpful. So I don't know if that means we circle back.
We can put out a
To
doodle
her.
with some dates.
Okay, all right, I'll get with Amy on that. And I would appreciate if we could, as much participation as possible. I do think this could be a good learning opportunity, for all of us. All right, Dr. Harris? I think you got everything else on the agenda, right?
We're commissioned to handle all three at once.
Go for it.
Ooh.
The
I
floor
would
is
certainly
yours.
love to do that, but I will tell you, there are some things that are specific to nursing that I am not quite qualified for. So I have with me tonight Nurse Joanna Stanek, who's our Nursing and Health Services Supervisor, who will address very quickly two of these. I will address one of those, but I'll say as she comes to the podium, I think she has the first one. We've got three. They are all interrelated in that the idea to move forward, we needed to get the updates to these policies somewhere around the start of the school year. It was emanating from our district health advisory committee that is comprised of various local physicians and persons who represent the Department of Public Health, which used to be DHEC, and some other areas throughout the area. So we wanted to bring this to your attention tonight to begin a discussion and as we move through, hopefully, the process of approval. All of the new changes are highlighted in blue. The old current policies are also attached. And what we'll do is attempt to highlight what is new and different in the various policies. And we'll start with the first one, which is in reference to, again, individual health care plans. And we've asked, again, Nurse Stanek to give us that information.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Ross. I will go over proposed revisions to Board Policy JLCDA, individual health care plans. It hasn't been updated since 2011, and there were some recent changes to the Code of Laws 596380. And one of the main things they've done is change some definitions. So they have defined for us an emergency action plan, and they have defined for us a seizure action plan. So both things are in that policy. The other thing they did was add some hold harmless language as part of the law. So that's addressed in the policy, and we have incorporated that language into our medication permission forms, our self-medicating, self-monitoring forms, and our individual health care plan templates. But those are the big changes in those policies.
Are there any questions, comments, concerns? All right, thank you.
Let me bring her back. Tobacco use by students. Again, this is a new policy. All of these have been consulted with our School Board Association as well. This new policy, new revised, simply gives us some definitions as well, which were not necessarily highlighted in the current policy, specific to tobacco products and electronic smoking devices. And I'll pause and say, I think it was Ms. Huddle who made mention of Mr. Bain, who's concerned about or requests about vape detectors in our schools. And he and I have talked a couple of different times on this. I was certainly fully aware of that. But obviously the attempt is to make certain that all of our schools and facilities are tobacco free, and this is in reference to students, but obviously that goes for staff as well, which is found in the G policy. Disciplinary appropriate actions are listed as well. And we want to, again, bring this to your attention as a revision to the current policy. I also note that we have in the information section a request to delete, abandon, if you will, the current administrative rule, which is reflected in the current in the new revised policy. But that is an information item that you should have as well in your packet.
Go ahead.
This is only tangentially related to the policy. I mentioned this to Dr. Ross. So we're taking an aggressive stance on tobacco use. And so I was wondering if we have information on whether or not we are completely divested from these companies in our investment portfolio. I figure Ms. Tucker could answer that.
Yes, thank you.
And I've reached out to our financial advisor to make sure that we are, but we'll get back to an answer on that.
Thank you.
So one question about the tobacco use. I looked at, it's in the code of conduct. It's a level 2. Is that right? It's a level 2 violation. Anyway, that's not going to change, right? I mean,
That's correct. What's
this
in
is
the
just
district-
changes the policy.
That's correct. Just the policy. The discipline code remains as is. That's correct.
Thanks.
Was that? Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and then the next policy is JLCDB, and that is use of life-saving medication. And the changes there is, when this was originally instated back in 2014, the only life-saving medication we were authorized to do was epinephrine. They have expanded that now, so we have access to more life-saving medications. So this, since the law has expanded to allow us to do that, then our board policy would align with that. And so basically the changes are everywhere it says epinephrine, it will now say life-saving medication. And we are currently implementing epinephrine and also Narcan. We started stocking Narcan last school year. And just so you know, last year we gave 3 epinephrines, 3 EpiPens. Of the 3, 1 of them was from stock. The other 2 were prescribed specifically for the student. And we did administer 1 dose of Narcan last year during our school year. So.
Ms. Huddle?
Do we also stock albuterol?
We do not currently stock albuterol. That one, we have had several discussions at Health Advisory, and it's not, there's more things that need to be figured out before we can just implement it. For example, Narcan and epinephrine is a one-time, the vehicle of administration is a one-time and done. Albuterol is an inhaler with multiple puffs, so you have to figure out a way to be able to utilize that for more than just one person, and there's spacers that go with that. There's cost involved with it. The other ones we can get through free programs, but there's not a free program for albuterol, so we'd have to look at cost. The toolkit from DPH requires that we call 911 anytime that we give a life-saving medication, which makes sense. But with albuterol, it's a little tricky because a lot of times when you give albuterol, they're better. And so now we've summoned an ambulance that we might not really need, and so we're like, if we can't really align with that, so there's all that to say. There's some things to work out, and it's still in discussion, so.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank you so much.
Great job.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Second. All in favor? The motion carries 6-0. Y'all have a good night.